President Trump tearing into congressional Republicans this morning for failing to pass big legislation urging the GOP to get started right now on tax reform. President Trump also defending his debt ceiling deal with Democratic leaders this week as he signs a $15 billion debt ceiling relief and hurricane relief package. 90, though, House Republicans actually voted against that bill earlier today. Joining me now to discuss, Bob Cusack, the Hill editor-in-chief, Kevin Walling, Democratic strategist, and Mark Meckler, Tea Party Patriots co-founder and Citizens for Self-Governance president. Mark, I want to start with you because within the Republican umbrella, you've got two warring parties or factions, if you will, the so-called Tuesday group and the Freedom Caucus. And the inability of those two groups to work together was why Obamacare legislation or repeal did not make it through. It seems to me that President Trump has just launched the gauntlet against both, saying, hey, one of you guys are going to lose out, and it could be the Freedom Caucus.
You know, I think the gauntlet's really been launched at a much narrower target, and I think that target is Mitch McConnell and Speaker Ryan. Those guys undercut the president intentionally. He indicated a willingness for building the wall to shut the government down. He was playing hardball. They undercut his ability to do that. They were actually negotiating an 18-month debt ceiling deal. That wasn't good for anybody. It was spineless. And I think Trump did what he had to do to get the fight back on the playing field before the end of the year.
Bob, in the meantime, no, 90 Republicans did not vote for this, sending a clear message to President Trump. Another message, perhaps, that they have their own self-interest and perhaps aren't intimidated by him.
Yeah, no, that's definitely right. I mean, this is going to make, I think, Ryan's job a lot harder because the Conservative Freedom Caucus, if Trump continues to work with Democrats, then that's going to squeeze Paul Ryan. At the same time, I don't see how Democrats work with Trump on something like tax cuts or tax reform, and that's just not going to happen. And honestly, if they did strike a deal, then Ryan and McConnell, I think, would have to say, we're not voting on whatever deal you struck with Chuck Schumer. So maybe on appropriations, government funding bills, Trump can play nice with Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, but on tax cuts and other issues, there's just no alliance that's possible.
Well, Kevin, the Democrats, I think there are Democrats who are interested in lower corporate taxes, certainly middle-class tax cuts. Are Democrats willing to go out there and say, hey, despite the fact that President Trump he extended the olive branch. He walked across the aisle. By the way, this is something that we rarely saw in the past 8 years, and it's so ironic because this is the essence of being presidential. So would the Democrats say to the public, hey, we don't want a deal. We don't want to reciprocate?
Well, Charles, that's a great question. I think, you saw in that Oval Office meeting, it was the Democrats that were practically running that meeting. 4 times the president put across a different platform in terms of the months extending the debt ceiling debate, and they settled on 3 months, which was the Democratic plan from the get-go. I agree that you're not going to see a lot of collaboration. I think this was a one-off, mainly directed at McConnell and Ryan, who promised raising that debt ceiling before the August recess, failed to do that, and he went shopping for new partners in Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
Mark, right now, President Trump is urging, he's imploring Republicans, hey, let's get ahead of the curve. We're not working that many days in September. We don't work that much to begin with. And we need something, particularly when it comes to taxes. President Trump wants a major legislative win, and to be quite frank with you, so does the American public and so does the stock market. And I don't know that it's just simple enough to point to failed leadership in the Senate and the House, although those are 2 prime targets.
I think that real tax reform is unlikely, and I have to point to failed leadership. We don't see leadership taking a strong hand when you have Republicans walking away from the repeal of Obamacare.
But real quick, because we got to wrap this up. But listen, I'm with you. I think leadership has been horrendous, feckless. But having said that, who gives in? The Tuesday group, the Freedom Caucus, who comes to the table and says, listen, compromise is why we're sent to Capitol Hill in the first place, and the American public is tired of this sort of dumb gridlock?
The question is, where's the pressure placed by leadership? They should be exposing those who are standing against real accomplishments, and they're not doing that. They don't have the strength to do it.
Gentlemen, thank you all very much. Have a great weekend. Appreciate it.